Hello friends, welcome back to my channel. My name is Amelia, and today we're going to do a reading journal video, but it's going to be slightly different from ones I've done so far. So let me know in the comments if you want more of this type of video. So reading challenges are a really popular way to expand your reading, get out of your comfort zone, or just reach like a specific goal in terms of numbers or what have you. So today I thought I would show you a few spread ideas for reading challenges that you can use in your reading journal. So for the purpose of this video, I decided to use a regular, I think it's a B5 size notebook, just because that I find is like the most common like size that you see for like bullet journaling, just like in stores and stuff. Like I personally use a square notebook, but that's kind of more difficult to find, so I decided to go with this ratio so that the layouts would probably be slightly more useful to the average person. So the first spread I'm doing is just for a book bingo. I think that's kind of one of the more common challenges that you see, and it's good because it's extremely adaptable. You can always change what's written in the squares depending on if you're making like a seasonal bingo or if it's like a year-long thing, maybe like a genre expanding one. You could put like different genres or subgenres in each square. It's really up to you what you would want to put in each little square and whether or not you're going for like a blackout, 1 row, 2 rows, whatever you want to do. Obviously, it's totally up to you. So I decided to keep it pretty simple because I want these to all be pretty easily recreatable. So I actually used a chapstick to trace like the little circles at the top there that I'm going to use to put the title in. So that's like a hack that I would say is pretty useful. It's just like drawing circles by hand is really difficult. So just find circular shaped things in your life that you can use that are a size that you like. So for example, I used the chapstick there, but I pretty often use my sharpener. I actually used it on the cloud that you can see in the next spread. As you can see, I did not do the best job doing the marker lines for the circle. Maybe I should have also used something to guide me for that part because my hand is not the most stable, but I just filled those in with some color, keeping it pretty simple. Again, obviously you can use whatever color scheme your heart desires. And then I'm just kind of using like a sort of blocky sans serif font to go inside there. Oh, my cat is joining us. Hi, kitty. And then doing a little bingo card sort of layout. I don't actually know if it's like numbers and letters in bingo. I feel like it is. I mean, that sounds right to me, so I'm going to assume it is. And then just doing a little free spot in the center. Obviously, you don't have to do that either. I think on the one in my reading journal, I have finished a series in the center. So do whatever your heart desires. And then I'm just throwing some little ideas into the squares. You obviously, as I was saying, don't have to use these exact ideas, but there's some ideas if maybe you can draw something from here. So for example, we have like a reread, a translation, a self-published book, a local author. I'm just realizing that I put a reread twice. That's my bad. I didn't need to do that. Then we've also got stuff like from last year's TBR, a new release, a nonfiction, something that made you laugh or cry. You could do page limits. So I've got under 200 pages and over 600 pages. So really whatever you like. And then just as you read the book, you can either cross off the square with like an X, or you can fill it in with a color. So that is the spread for the book bingo, and then obviously you could change the decorations to fit in if you have like a monthly or yearly theme that you're going with. I just decided to keep it simple for the sake of this video. And then moving on, the next spread is for a rainbow reads challenge. Now I haven't really seen too much of this one before, but it's a pretty simple idea. The idea is just that you read a book that you could either do it with the cover is a certain color, or you could do it like by vibe. Like that's maybe a little bit more abstract, but like I think you could say that like certain books have like a color vibe or like a color that they remind you of. So you could do it that way as well if you wanted. And then for the layout for this one, I started with a big old cloud as the decoration, and then I have little stripes coming up from it. That's going to be the rainbow. So I'm going to color each of those in, and then the idea would be that you would write the name of the book that was represented by that color in that stripe. I did originally mean to make the title rainbow, and then I just sort of started writing and then realized that I had forgotten about that, so it ended up just being one color. But I just sort of went for a bubbly, sort of friendly kind of font for the title, and then going in and just filling in each little stripe with a different rainbow color. I'm using a combination of Crayola markers and also Tombow markers, but obviously you can just use whichever markers you have. I do think the Crayola ones are a good option because they're pretty inexpensive and you can get a large pack. I think I have like 100 pack that I got at Walmart during like back to school season, and it was pretty inexpensive, so I do recommend those. If you see me flipping back and forth, I'm just testing what colors I think should go in the color palette, because I got partway through and then I realized that I only needed 6 spots, but I had 7, so I went with like an indigo violet kind of vibe instead of just purple. And then I'm just gonna color in the cloud with like a light sort of grayish blue. I was thinking about leaving it white, but it just felt like a lot of white space, so yeah, I'm just filling that in now. And I decided to go like around and around the edges, like as you can kind of see, just following the outline of the cloud, just because I thought it would sort of look better, because you can always see, like you can see in the stripes that you can always sort of see the lines from the markers where you're going back and forth. Like you can't really blend them on this sort of paper, so you're gonna end up with the lines. So I was like, oh, it'll be cute if the lines sort of match. And I do think it does look kind of cute. It gives kind of like a puffy look almost to the cloud, which I do like. And then I thought the top was looking kind of plain, so I'm adding in some more little cloud decorations, and I'm gonna color them in the same color. But obviously all this sort of stuff is just decoration, so it's up to you if you prefer to do this a different way, but I think the sort of cloud theme suits the idea of like a rainbow reading challenge. And then just adding in some sparkles, because I still felt like it was a little plain and wanting something a little bit more fun. So yeah, that's what those are for. And that pretty much wraps up everything for the rainbow reading section challenge thing, I guess. Oh, I forgot that I went in with orange to add like a drop shadow to the rainbow title, just because I thought it would make it look more colorful and rainbowy, but I don't actually think it turned out that well, so I don't necessarily recommend that you try that one unless you do a better job of it. I mean, that's always, of course, possible. And then this one is going to be a pretty simple spread. It's pretty fast to make, so if you're looking for a quick thing to do, this could work for you. However, you have to like older books or just change like the scale of your timeline. So this is a spread for like a reading through the decades challenge. So the idea behind this challenge is just that you pick like a start year. So for this one, I think I put 1900, so you can put whatever year you want. And then I have a little tick for each decade. And the idea is pretty simple. It's just that you are going to read a book from each of those decades. You could read them in order. You don't have to, I suppose. And then just fill in what book you read for each of those decades on your little timeline here. I went with a squiggly design because it's kind of just the best way to fit a long timeline on a page of this orientation. You could, of course, turn your book to this side. I did consider doing it that way, but I just think that this design is a little bit more fun, and I think it uses the space better than just like a single line going like horizontally across the page. But this is probably one of the easiest ones to draw. You just need like a black pen. I used my sharpener to get those curves as well as I did, and then just like a color to add a little drop shadow if you want a little bit more fun. And then I'm just adding some similar sparkles just because it was a little bit too much white space, and I kind of feel like maybe it could have used a bit more color, but maybe a more toned down approach is better for like a old-timey sort of decades challenge. And then we're moving on to the final challenge, and this one is also kind of a simple concept. It's like books by month. So the idea is that during each month of the year, so like during January, you would read a book that's set in January, and so on and so forth for each of the months. Although I'm not sure how easy this is, just because I quickly Googled like books set in January, and most of the things that like popped up would just say it's like, oh, it's set in winter. So this one might be a little more difficult, might require a little bit more research to accomplish faithfully, but it could still be fun. Get a little bit of a vibe, you know. Sometimes when it's like fall, you want to read books that are set in fall just because of like the vibe. I don't know. I feel like you know what I mean. But for the layout, I decided to just make little calendar boxes, one for each month. Initially, I was going to make them shaped like the calendar, you know, like each like little box for a day, but because there's so many different months, they didn't fit perfectly into the lines the way I wanted them. So I just decided to do plain squares, which is fine because I don't even actually really need to write the dates. Like I didn't write the dates at all, I just put the month. And this is also a pretty simple one to set up. I originally wasn't using a ruler, but as you can see, I switched to a ruler. And I definitely think the boxes that I use the ruler for look a lot neater. So I do recommend that unless you have a really steady hand, a ruler is your friend for this kind of thing when there are so many like lines next to each other. And then I just made a really simple box for the title, which I should have used a ruler for because it's kind of wonky. And then I'm going for a bit of like a gradient with the headers. So I'm starting at the top with a really light lilac-y sort of purple, and then getting slightly darker as I go down towards the bottom row. And then, okay, my cat is up to nonsense. Okay, she's just, if she makes noise, just ignore her. And then I'm going in with a really simple, just sans serif handwriting for the titles, just calling it Reading by Month. I didn't really know if that was the best title name, but I couldn't really come up with anything that was catchier, so we're just gonna go with it. So yeah, you just need like kind of a finer tipped marker to write the titles on these boxes because they're only one dot grid space high, which doesn't leave a ton of space for writing. And then I did end up filling these boxes in, and I kind of don't like the color that I chose for them. And actually, in retrospect, it might be fun to color them in as you go. The idea was just that like as you read a book for each month that was set in that month, you would just like write the book like title and like author into like the box, but you could also add like the color element so that it's a more visual way to fill it in as well as writing in like the title and stuff. So there's options on how to fill this one in, I guess. But yeah, there is the Reading by Month challenge spread. Again, trying to keep it pretty simple just so that they're easy for you guys to recreate. But yeah, those are all of the spreads that I have for you guys. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.